Another crushing defeat for the Orlando Magic against an elite team in the East. Why the rallying cry just isn't working anymore. Today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is January 18th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, another just very bad game. Just game where Magic weren't particularly competitive. Why the Magic may not have enough anymore. We'll talk about what the Magic are missing and what standard they're not upholding. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, you can find a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA, and you can find the Locked On Magic daily newsletter as well now too. Monday through Friday, it's your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The rallying cry for the Orlando Magic over the last 2 months has been a simple one. We are enough. And until the last 2 weeks, that statement has been true. No matter what you want to say, no matter what you think the Magic are missing, no matter what doubts you might have, no matter what weaknesses the Magic have, and we will get to the big one here in a minute, the Magic always pulled through. They did what good teams do. We've discussed this. This is what the Heat do. This is what Heat culture is. This is what all the good teams do. They step up and fill in, but they don't change who they are. The thing that makes them great is bigger than one player, although players elevate what they do. It's bigger than one player. It is a deep-seated core identity. It is the team. When you put a Magic jersey on, you do this. That's what they mean when we are enough, because our identity and our culture is so ingrained that it's there. And look, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, in the grand scheme of things, isn't enough to put all that away. When this Magic team is healthy, they are not this team. When this Magic team is healthy, everything obviously gets elevated. Everything becomes so much better and easier because you have better players. And so I'm going to caution before I dive too deep into this point that while the players on the Magic right now are wearing the jersey, this is not the Orlando Magic. And until they tell me Franz Wagner is out for the rest of the year or Jalen Suggs is out for the rest of the year, yeah, the Magic are in a swoon. Yeah, the Magic have given up their cushion and have fallen to 6th in the East. They fell to 8th in the East last year at this time of year. So it's not time for panic or catastrophe, but the alarm bells are ringing. Because on 2 games in this road trip, yes, against very good Milwaukee Bucks and Boston Celtics teams the Magic have to figure out how to beat, by the way, if they want to get where they want to go, which is ultimately a championship. The Magic were plainly not competitive. More than not competitive, the Magic didn't play Magic basketball. They said that after the loss of the Bucks. They didn't say it explicitly after this game, but the numbers don't lie. The Magic just played their worst defensive game of the season. The Magic gave up 121 points They gave up their worst offensive rating of the season, 131.4 points per 100 possessions, if I'm not mistaken. Boston made 17 three-pointers. The Magic can't keep up with that, especially shooting the way they shoot. We will talk about that in a minute. I'm not ignoring that. 134.4 points per 100 possessions allowed for the Magic. This is not Magic basketball. And as we look for answers on this roster, quite plainly, they aren't there. The energy and defensive intensity that defines this team is not there. That point of attack defense, and again, Boston, very difficult team to defend because of that three-point shooting, because of their volume. But they got free runs to the basket. They got free shots at the rim. Jason Tatum picked apart and picked his matchup however he wanted. And they made threes. You got to take away something. And on top of that, the Magic fouled a ton in the third quarter. They gave up 14 free throw attempts in the third quarter, stunting any run that they had. They forced only 10 turnovers, so they weren't even disruptive defensively. The Magic simply weren't good enough. And for a team that prides itself on its defense, giving up this many points, giving up their first back-to-back 50% shooting games of the season, giving up 50% shooting or better in 3 of the last 4 games tells you all you need to know. Unless and until the Magic figure out how to defend at a high level, nothing else matters. Because that's what it means to put a Magic jersey on. And when the Magic kept saying, we are enough, it's because it could count on Goga Batadze to protect the rim behind them. It's because they could count on Jalen Suggs and Tavius Caldwell-Pope shutting down anything on the perimeter. It's because they understood their defense was the key, and it didn't matter how many shots they missed. I will talk about the shooting. Do not worry. I'm not ignoring that. The Magic were 5 for whatever they were. 5 for really bad. We'll talk about it. But everything with this team starts with its defense. And without that defense, the Magic are no better than a tanking team. And when you look at the talent level on this roster, the only thing keeping them afloat was their defense and their belief. That belief is gone. You can see it in their faces. You can see it as misses become turnovers, become runouts, become open threes for the other team. This Magic team that prided itself so much on that effort and that never say die attitude is struggling to find it. Is struggling to put those pieces together. Right now, I can't agree with the Magic. And I'm sure they're not going to agree with me on this, but I can't agree with the Magic. They aren't enough right now. They don't have enough offensive attackers. They have a star player who's still working his way back in and very clearly working his way back in. They don't have energy, intensity, ferocity, confidence, bravado. They're missing all the things that have made this Magic team successful. I don't want to say it's not for lack of trying, because the first half of this game, even though Boston was making shots and the Magic were making a ton of mistakes, the Magic were trying. They were fighting, they were scrapping, they were trying their best to stay in this game. And the fact of the matter is, if Boston's playing well with the talent the Magic have right now, the Magic need to play well too. And they didn't play well enough. Like just simplicity, they didn't play well enough. They might have had the right intentions, they might have had the right energy. They did not execute well enough. And they let all of that affect them to the point where they lost by 30 again. Second straight game trailing by 30 points. Always says more about the losing team than it does the winning team. Boston took care of their business. Orlando looked like they were really bad. Because they are right now. We can't deny it. We can't pretend otherwise. The Magic haven't won consecutive games since December 26th, since they or December 23rd when they beat the Celtics. The Magic right now are struggling to be consistent, to string things together. And that's what we expected when they faced all these injuries. And it's only gotten worse as the injury well has deepened. The Magic need help, and until they get help, it is impossible to make any statements or any judgments about them. They have to find a way to scratch wins and stay afloat. This is what we imagined actually when Paolo went out, and certainly when Franz went out, that the Magic would just have to struggle to stay afloat. They did more than that. They did their job. They gave themselves this cushion, and now they're finally feeling the pain of it. But that's not an excuse. That's not what the Magic want to be about. That's not the standard they want to hold themselves to. The Magic have to find it again. And frankly, if they're not as fired up and ticked off about it as I am, about the way that they're playing, and come out firing on Sunday, I will be disappointed. I get it. There's a lot of injuries. A lot of guys are tired. You could feel the exhaustion watching them play. That's part of the problem, because they don't usually feel this exhausted. They got outworked against Boston. Boston beat them to so many offensive rebounds. I know there's a lot of long rebounds. The Magic didn't win any 50-50 balls. I hate always kind of getting into that they wanted it more. Boston wanted this win more. And that just cannot happen with the Magic's talent level, especially with the Magic's talent level right now. Right now, the Magic aren't enough. And until Franz comes back, which could be Thursday, could be Saturday, could be next Saturday, not this Saturday, could be next Monday in Miami. And until Jalen Suggs comes back, which probably is a practice away. I don't think he'll be back Sunday, but probably a practice away for him. The Magic have to find a way to be themselves, to be enough. Because right now, this ain't it. I'm dancing around the big issue, though. We've ignored it. I'll poo-poo it away again, but we can't not talk about it. The Magic shooting problem is not getting solved anytime soon. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's more than 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 per month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account. Interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. At the end of the day, though, this is a math problem. Look, the Magic, it's a math problem. And specifically against the Celtics team. And the Celtics are unique in this way. Specifically against this Celtics team, every team is facing a huge math issue. They take a lot of threes. They make a lot of threes. And it's sometimes your job just to keep up. Now, I'll give the Magic some credit here. They are good at limiting three-point attempts. They lead the league in giving up three-point attempts they're leading the league in giving up the fewest three-point attempts per game. They do a good job defending the three-point line typically. I did not think they did a good job in this game, but Boston made some tough shots. You got to live with it. And maybe we're all overreacting. And this is just Boston had a really nice night. They were 17 for 37 from 3. But this is the math problem. The Magic are never going to make 17 threes again. Their job is to stay close in the raw three-point makes. They cannot get blown out there, or they got to make it up somewhere else. And typically the Magic make it up with turnovers. They only forced 10 turnovers in this game. They make it up with offensive rebounds. They had 12 offensive rebounds to Boston's 11. They had 15 second chance points, but they were 5 of 12 on those second chance points. So again, you're giving up opportunities there. Or you make it up at the foul line. Magic were 21 of 31 from the foul line. This is all dancing around the issue. This is all dancing around the question at hand. Because I can guarantee I'm going to look at the stats tomorrow or on Saturday. I'm going to look up the NBA.com stats. I'm going to look up the NBA score sheet or game score, whatever that website's called. Look at their stats. And I'm going to see that the Magic probably missed enough open threes to win the game. It actually happened against the Bucks. According to at least one measurement, the Magic's expected shot value should have given them the win against Milwaukee. Now, I would dispute some of that. That's kind of looking at basketball only on paper. They gave up a lot of paint points. They got blown out early and then kind of just played even the rest of the way, or roughly even the rest of the way. Not really roughly even. They got their butts kicked in. They got butt whooped. But the bottom line is this: you're not winning any games in the modern NBA shooting like this. The Magic shot 5 for 32 from 3 at 15.6%. And while there are a lot of people flooding my comments and my inbox asking me, why are the Magic still shooting threes? I will say this a million times. I would rather shoot and miss the three than pass up a good shot. Because passing up a good shot actually messes up your offense more. The Magic needed to shoot more threes this year. It's not a bad thing that they're shooting more threes. And in fact, they are still top 10 in the league in creating wide open threes. Now, how much of that is the defense not rotating out to them? Fair question to ask. But statistically, the Magic are getting good looks. And Jamal Mosley said after the game that as long as the looks are good, he has confidence that his team is going to make them. At this point, I don't know how much you can believe him. Because when Jason Beatty of the Orlando Sentinel asked the question about, at this juncture of the season, what can you do to get guys to make shots? Jamal Mosley sat there staring at the box score for 5, 6, 7 seconds. And those 7 seconds said everything. It said everything about this team's struggle right now and everything about the fact that the Magic are just shooting themselves in the foot. The bottom line is this. I believe the Magic can win without being a good three-point shooting team. They can win this year. They can get to the playoffs. They can be the 4 or the 5 seed. They can compete in a playoff series shooting poorly. Just shooting well enough. We're not asking them to be the best three-point shooting team in the league. We're not asking them to be the Boston Celtics. But they need to keep defenses honest. And they plain and simply aren't doing that. And at this point, I would even question the quality of the shots that they're getting. I'll go back and watch all 32 of those threes tomorrow and assess them all and say, that was a good shot. That was a bad shot. I hated that pass, whatever. The Magic got to make the dang shots. Open, contested, whatever. They got to make shots. That's the point of the game. That's how you score in this game. That's how you relieve the pressure on your defense so it doesn't have to be super duper elite every night. That's how you get Paolo Banchero into a rhythm. That's how you free up Franz Wagner. That's how you create their scoring opportunities so they don't have to expose themselves to constant hits and banging their head against a wall. The Magic know they need to be better shooters. And look, getting their stars back, getting Jalen Suggs back as a spot-up shooter is going to help immensely. But the shooting fix isn't on this roster. We're 43 games into the season. We got 39 games left. We are past the midpoint. You kind of are who you are at this point. I don't have hope that Wendell Carter is going to look like the Wendell Carter we expected and be the starter. Goga Bitadze is the starter. He's the better player at this point. I don't expect Jonathan Isaac to suddenly figure out how to shoot. He's, continuing to shoot. But that's who he is. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's been shooting 35% for the last month. Like, he's figured it out. His percentages are real low overall, but he's a quality shooter, and, he went 1 for 4 in this game. We got to find a way to get him more shots. He was 2 for 5 in this game. Get Kenny more shots. Get the ball moving so he can get the ball moving and rotating to him so your best three-point shooter can actually take some dang threes. I'm not expecting Wendell Carter to recover as a three-point shooter. He's 1 for 5 in this game. Teams are going to let him shoot. The Magic are hoping Caleb Houston comes around. Guess what? We've had 3 years of Caleb Houston. While he is an intriguing shooter, we have 3 years of data telling us he's not the shooter we thought he was. He was 0 for 3 in this game. Trevelyan Queen was 0 for 5. That was 5 of his 6 misses. Again, I'm not going to be upset about guys taking open threes. When you're open, you have to shoot. If you're going to be on the three-point line and you are open, you have to shoot. But this is the difference between the Magic and the Celtics. When the Magic go get a shooting specialist like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's shooting 32% from 3, they draft a shooting specialist like Caleb Houston. He can't make shots. Jett Howard is shooting less than 30% from 3 this year. When the Celtics go get a shooter, they go get Sam Hauser, 2 for 4. They go get Peyton Pritchard, who is a great shooter, did not take a 3 in this game, did not need to. It's the answer to so many of the Magic's problems isn't rocket science. They have to make shots. And at this point, 43 games into the season, yes, I know we haven't had Paolo at full strength. We haven't had Paolo and Franz together very much. This Magic team just ain't hitting shots. And it's not going to change. I don't know if it's going to happen at the deadline. Like, I honestly don't. If this team continues to struggle and continues to sink, the odds of a trade deadline deal, I think, do increase. Because then it becomes clear, okay, what we have isn't working as well as we thought it was. We can begin to make our tweaks if the right deal comes along. But certainly in the summer, if the Magic do not address this shooting concern, it's going to be the number one question we ask at exit interviews. How are you going to address shooting? What about your approach to shooting and working on your shot is going to change in the offseason? Because whatever the Magic did this summer did not work. Orlando hoped for natural internal growth. They brought in the second best shooter on the market, and it didn't work. The Magic are not only the worst three-point shooting team in the league, they're shooting the worst three-point percentage in the NBA over the last decade, longer than a decade. The Magic have to make shots. They have to make threes. It is the only way to compete. And ultimately, look, it's great that the Magic are 13-3 against teams with records below 500. That is how you build your record. You have to beat those teams. But there's also a reason why the Magic have one of the worst records among the playoff teams, among the top 6. I believe they actually do have the worst record among the top 6 against teams with winning records. And it's because they don't know every night if they're going to be able to make enough threes to survive, to make their offense function. They have the worst offense in the league over the last 10 games by a long shot. And now that their defense is slipping, they're really feeling the heat of it. The two problems go hand in hand, obviously. The Magic need to make shots. It's not rocket science. And clearly something hasn't worked for this team, and it's gotten to a point where it is endemic. It is so deeply embedded with this team now that there is a little bit of a crisis of confidence. Look, there is a little bit of, we don't know what to do. I'm going to miss it. It may even be like, I need to make this one so bad that they're pressing every time they shoot threes. And maybe the Magic need a game where they just don't take a lot of threes. They just go back to not taking threes at volume. But again, you aren't going to win that way. You got to make threes. You got to take open threes. You got to make them again. I'll say that one more time. You got to make these threes. It's the only way you're going to compete and win at this higher level. And that's just, there isn't an answer on this roster. There just isn't. Like, Gary Harris would help. but he's shooting on such low volume, it doesn't matter. Jalen Suggs being a spot-up shooter again, that's going to help. But whatever they're doing is just not working. And it's time to really look hard at why that's the case and make changes as needed. They still got 39 games to turn things around and make things look better, but it's been rough. And look, the Magic might see Boston in the second round. They're going to have to face Boston at some point, and Boston's not changing this strategy anytime soon. You're going to need to be able to make enough threes to keep up and give yourself a chance. They didn't Friday night, and that's a big reason why they lost. Let's close this game up, put it in the back burner. We'll talk a little bit about what the box score, what we saw from individual players. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends at Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. I'm actually wearing my Skims right now. Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear, whether it's fit, comfort, or just finding the right style for me. After all, it's, not showing my underwear off to people. It's got to be comfortable for me. Skims has really changed all of that. I was a strict boxers guy. Now I'm into boxers briefs, and Skims is a big part of it because they're just so comfortable. The Skims men's line offers something for everyone from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I've tried a few Skims. They sent us a few samples, and I was so impressed. I've ordered a few more. I've gone back and ordered plenty on my own. I am hooked. They're perfect for my lifestyle. Whether I'm on the move, whether I'm at the game, whether I'm in the gym, Skims goes with me and makes me just feel like I'm not wearing underwear, which is actually kind of nice. Always wear underwear though, semper ubi subibi. Whether I'm working out or just running errands, are the most comfortable and reliable underwear I've ever owned. Plus, lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. That's Skims Men at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Let's run through the final box scores. The Orlando Magic fall to the Boston Celtics 121-94. As Cole Anthony said after the game, I don't want to think too much more about these last two games. Sometimes when you play the best teams in the league, you get your butt kicked in, you get your head kicked in, and just have to recover and go on to the next. Again, you just have to kind of brush it off, learn the lessons you got to learn, but know that you're never as bad as you think you are on your worst day, and you're never as good as you think you are on your best day. The NBA is about consistency. Again, right now the Magic are not very consistent at things, but they're going back home to the Kia Center to play the Denver Nuggets, team they've played very well against in the past. They've won the last, 3 games against Denver, and they've won 3 of the last 4 against Denver at the very least. And they have one of the best home records in the NBA. So, I think this team is a very different team at home. I think they find their energy at home in a way that they do not on the road, especially with how undermanned they are. It's a good thing to be back at home. And let's make these points as well. Franz Wagner is back on the court. He's continuing his return to competition conditioning. I don't think he'll be available Sunday. I think that's a little too soon. I do think the earliest we might see him is Thursday against Portland. I think Saturday against Detroit is a little bit more on the timeline we expect and a little bit more likely. Monday against Miami is definitely a possibility. The 27th against Miami. I think the latest we see him is at Portland on the West Coast road trip. So the Magic have a West Coast road trip coming up in a couple weeks. I think that's the latest that we see him. So we are again in that final countdown to his return, about a week, 10 days before he comes back. Jalen Suggs was on the court pregame, doing some dribbling drills. Jason Beatty of the Orlando Sentinel, Mason Williams of Magic and on SI were in Boston. Caught him doing some ball handling work, talked to him. Jalen Suggs says he continues to get better day by day. He's probably not going to be ready to go by Sunday. I think the Magic want to get him in a contact practice. Suggs said that this time off has been really good for him. It's kind of rejuvenated him, kind of cleared his mind a little bit. I think that's ultimately a good thing if you're going to sacrifice a few games here. And I think the Magic have sacrificed a lot. They're just lacking a lot of energy defensively right now. I think it's ultimately going to be good for them for the long run. At the end of the day, all the concerns that I think we're feeling about this team right now, all these concerns, I think they go away, or I think they're all just injury-based. Again, get Goga Bitadze out of concussion protocol. I think the defense is a lot better on that alone. Get Jalen Suggs back, then you can beat anybody because he just sets the tone and lifts everyone's energy up. You get Paolo back kind of up and running. We'll talk about Paolo here in a minute. He's still kind of figuring some stuff out, but get him up and running and you're back in business offensively again. Get Franz back and that's another offensive weapon. Then you can start setting your rotation to always have a quality scorer on the court, which the Magic just don't have right now. So there might be some other issues that the Magic have to deal with. I think there's just a lot of fatigue, a lot of just guys that are just worn down all of a sudden and it hits you. Like that. I think getting guys back healthy is going to go a long way to making this team better. I want to repeat this before we dive too deep into the box score. This sucks. The Magic are at their low point. This is probably the bottom. If not, this is, Denver's a tough team. They were 22-20 last year. So they're still like a game ahead of their progress from last year. They were 22-20 last year, 8th in the East at this time. They rallied. They got back. I mentioned this on yesterday's pod. The schedule is set up for them to succeed over the next 20 games. They're 0-2 in the third quarter of the season. I said if they could go 14-7 is probably the minimum. They can still easily go 14-5, and if they do that, they're going to be back in the 4-5 conversation. I am not worried at this point. No one's hitting the panic button. I think there are some alarm bells ringing. I think you're going through the manual trying to figure out, okay, what do we do to make this alarm go off? But the Magic are fine in the long run, provided that they're going to be healthy sooner than later. They're just, you just got to go through the list of players that they're playing. Coming off the bench, Anthony Black is a rotation player. Jonathan Isaac is a rotation player. Having a bad year, but a rotation player. They're playing Caleb Houston, Trevelyan Queen, and Corey Joseph. In addition to those guys. Corey Joseph only played 5 minutes, so he's not even playing. The Magic are leaning on a lot of guys who just frankly are not rotation players. This is what, the Magic have depth. They've survived because of their depth, but they are stretched thin. And you can see them like a rubber band snapping when it's stretched. They are snapping right now. And again, it's about just players who the Magic need to step up who are struggling. Tristan Da Silva, 5 points, 2 for 7 shooting, 1 for 3 from 3. He was critical to the Magic beating the Celtics the first time around, including making that kind of game-clinching shot. Da Silva's a rookie, and he has looked like a rookie. After kind of finding his spark, he's hit the wall again. And he's struggling right now. And getting him into a bench role where he's not relied on to start is going to help, is going to kind of meter him out a little bit and do wonders for him. Get him so he's playing competition that he can actually go up against instead of having to guard Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum or Kristaps Porzingis. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, again, get the guy more shots. I know he's 5 points, 2 for 5 shooting, 1 for 4. I know his shooting hasn't been great this year. But he needs to take more than 5 shots. We need to get him at 8, 9, 10 shots per game, especially with all the injuries. And again, this was the risk of signing Kenny. And Kenny's been great defensively. I still think he's a great fit. I think when the team's fully healthy, he's going to be even better. The problem with Kenny was you put a lot of money into a guy who needs others to set him up. And obviously the Magic lost the two main guys that set everyone up. Kenny has suffered for it. So again, but you're missing a lot of production there. Anthony Black. I thought Anthony Black had a good game. 13 points, 4 for 10 shooting, 0 for 3 from 3, 5 for 6 from the foul line, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. I thought he was really aggressive. He found his aggression, especially in the third quarter. When he's driving downhill, the Magic are really tough, and he can be really tough to guard. And he just doesn't do it enough. And this is ultimately the big problem. The Magic don't have many irrational confidence guys. Like, look, Paolo is the star. He has to have irrational confidence. He played okay. 21 points, 8 for 20 shooting, 0 for 2 from 3, 5 for 7 from the foul line, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 turnovers. I felt like he was forcing things a little bit. Some of that was by necessity. I felt like he was still processing things slow. Like the game was still a little fast for him. And I think playing against a team like Boston, not going to help him at this stage. I don't think it's a coincidence that he struggled a little bit against Milwaukee in their second run against him. I don't think it's a coincidence he struggled against a good defensive team like Boston. Eventually, he's gonna get those reps down, and we won't use that excuse. But he looked like a guy who's playing his 4th game in 2 months. Like it's gonna take some time with him. But the Magic. But to win these games, the Magic need an efficient Paolo, and he was struggling to get to spots, struggling to read where the defense was, taking tough shots, forcing jumpers. Not even forcing drives. You force drives, that's great. Gets him to the foul line usually. Just forcing everything, it didn't work. Cole Anthony is an irrational confidence guy. And he played great. 23 points, 9 for 15 shooting, 2 for 5 from 3, 7 rebounds, did not have any assists. But when Cole is scoring this is the Cole that the Magic need. Typically, when Cole gets 20 points and shoots better than 50%, the Magic win. In fact, that's been the telltale since Jalen Suggs' injury. This is the first time the Magic have lost since Suggs' injury where Cole shot 50%. If Cole plays like this, more often than not, the Magic are going to win. And so, Paolo needs to slow his game down a little bit. He's just reading things slow. He's just reacting slow. It's about playing at his pace, but comfortably making quick decisions. The Magic's quick decisions were terrible in this game. Cole was the best player on the floor for Orlando. And again, that says a lot because he still struggles defensively. Wendell Carter was okay. 15 points, 4 for 9 shooting. He was 1 for 5 from 3, so most of his misses were threes. He was 6 for 10 from the foul line, so giving up points at the free throw line. In a game you lose by 27, maybe free throws don't matter. But the Magic shot 21 of 31 from the foul line. They were 13 for 17 in the first half. Boston was 7 for 8. Then Boston took 14 free throws in the third quarter, and that was essentially the game. They're 13 for 14. Orlando just kills all of their momentum when they miss free throws. Missed all the threes you want in the world. You got to make up for those misses by getting to the foul line. And when you get to the foul line, you got to make them. Free throw awareness month is a little bit more than a month away. The Magic have to make free throws, and that was just an issue in this game. I thought Dell was okay. Defensively, he struggled. This weird matchups, a lot of switching, put him in bad spots. Put Cole in a lot of bad spots. I thought Kristaps Porzingis scored 23 points on 7 for 10 shooting. Jason Tatum just picked the matchup he wanted with how the Magic were switching and then just victimized them in the post. Even when Orlando was trying to make a run in the second quarter, Tatum just stopped it with shot after shot after shot. He had 15 of his 30 points in the second quarter. Orlando had no answer for him. And frankly, in this kind of a matchup, the Magic need Paolo Banchero to cancel out Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum was excellent. Paolo Banchero was not. And that's a big difference in this game on top of the three-point shooting. There are areas where you could say, the Magic may have won that area. The Magic didn't win any area in this game. Any of the areas that are usually their indicators for winning. Points in the paint is about the only one. But even then, it was just not enough of them. I mean, look, Orlando was 22 of 33 in the paint for 44 points. It's not enough points in the paint if you're going to give up that many threes. So just a lot. It was a lot. It was just a lot. And, the Magic need help. I wish I had more complicated answers. I wish I had more complex things to say. They need their guys healthy. And their players just aren't healthy right now. And that's a big reason why they're in the predicament that they're in. The Orlando Magic fall to the Boston Celtics 121-94. They're back in action Sunday at the Kia Center against the Denver Nuggets. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of the links to know podcasts to your podcast-enabling device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. I'll have my review of the Wagner Brothers documentary, which I finally finished on Friday. That'll be up on Orlando Magic Daily on Saturday. And of course, for even more Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. On my Patreon page, I talk about what I saw when I went to Milwaukee in December and why I think the Deer District is a good model for what we'll see when Westcourt finally maybe gets built. I provide my thoughts on that on my Patreon page today. As if that's not enough, Monday through Friday, you can check out the Locked On Magic Daily newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. That's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic. This has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.